It's Sunday night. We're back. Dawgs HQ with you. Jake Roos, Rusty Mansell. Welcome to the Georgia Show. We do it for you every week. Rusty, big week, man. A lot to talk about after that performance. No question about it. We got plenty to touch on tonight. I titled this one, A Different Breed of Bulldog Beats Up on the Vols. Carson Beck, maybe. And Georgia recruiting updates, because there's a lot to talk about on all three of those fronts. I want to dive in, though, right off the jump, Rusty. Like I said, a different breed of Bulldog beats up on these Vols, man. This did not look like the team that went to Oxford, Mississippi. They must have buried something in the dirt over there and just not brought it back on the bus with them, because that was an absolutely different performance against what was a pretty vaunted defense in Tennessee coming into this. 19 points is the most the Vols had given up all season. Georgia hangs 31 on.
Yeah, I don't know what it is right now. I mean, you know, you look at the Georgia-Alabama matchup, and Alabama certainly has Georgia's number. I mean, they just do, and we don't have to get into that. But for what Georgia has Tennessee's number, and it's not really just a Josh Heupel thing. I mean, they've won 8 in a row, and quite honestly, Jake, if it wasn't for a Hail Mary, they would have won 9 in a row. Kirby Smart would be 9-0 against Tennessee if not for a Hail Mary, which is crazy. You know, that 2016 team was not very good. They were average, you know. So they just played well. The season was on the line. The crowd was crazy. Try not to overreact, because I've been going to games for a long time, and since the mid-'80s, been to a lot of different settings. That was a top 3 or 4 setting to me, in my opinion, last night. The new fireworks stuff adds some juice. The biggest thing, I think, Jake, is just starving for a night game, man. I mean, starving for an environment.
Starving to get home.
When I got there, well, yeah, that too, but I don't think that, you know, I don't think you get that same electricity in a 3:30 game. You know,
sure.
if this was CBS, it would have been a hell of an environment, but it would have been a 3:30 game, you know.
Right.
So being ABC now, they got that game at night. I don't think it kicked off till like 7:50. It was crazy. And the energy was crazy. When I got there, man, I got there way early, and by accident, I thought traffic was going to be very bad. And it was just, you could just feel it. It was a huge day, tailgates everywhere, people everywhere. I mean, there was a lot of energy in that building. And I made a post on Dawgs HQ. I was on the sideline pregame, and I went down to try to see. I went down to try to see the kind of energy, and somebody walked up to me and said, "Hey, man, these guys are juiced up in the these guys are juiced up in the." Am I having some mic issues? I can fix that.
I couldn't tell if it's pulling in or not, but like I said, we'll fix that in a second. But
okay.
the juice, right? I
mean, there was a lot of juice, man. A lot of juice there.
Those guys were
locked in. They were pumped. The students, man. The minute it was open, the minute the gate was open, like the students flooded the entire section on the lower bowl, and then the end zone completely just exploded there.
Yeah, you know, Jake Rowe mentioned too, you go back through and watch the game. He said you see Kirby coming through you know, the tunnel there, and he said dude looked like he had ice in his veins, man. I mean, just a cool, calm customer at that point. And you know, Jeremy, what's interesting is he said that Jake said that about Kirby. Jeremy said, you know, in the post-game interviews, he said Carson Beck had a little bit of something going on with him that has not been maybe the case this season. He said it seemed like he had a little bit of swagger, a little bit of, you know, extra, you know, dirt off the shoulder, perhaps, if you will.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
I mean, look, we're going to get into Carson's performance for sure, but I mean, I think that this is one of those games, Rusty, where, like you said, all of those factors kind of convalesced into one moment. You were able to get out there. You were able to really, you know, you only get so many opportunities like this, right? This setting, this environment, what's on the line in this situation, and Georgia is able to go out there and not only deliver, but just deliver in freaking spades, man. I mean, just put on a clinic. And now let's call it what it was. At first, I think everybody was saying, "Oh boy, we're."
What the hell's going on?
I know how this storybook ends.
Ooh, I start thinking about the board, and here we go.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Tennessee was getting some things done easily early that really looked like they were going to be a problem for Georgia. Some things that you had seen other teams do, kind of march down methodically. And then suddenly, there's been a lot of conjecture today about where was the turning point in this game. In your mind, can you point to a moment, I mean, that kind of felt like it to you, where you were like, it felt like everything started to shift suddenly?
I think that first drive, that touchdown drive, it was 10-7, 10-0. Not really. They really they had nothing going. You know what I mean? And they made a couple plays. I think the touchdown pass, people talk about the run before. I think the touchdown pass to Delp, that was an NFL throw. That was what makes Carson Beck so special to Delp, because he had to anticipate the throw, he had to throw him open. He layered it over a linebacker in front of a DB to Delp in the back of the end zone. I think I tweeted it today. Before that throw, and he had a couple drops now. Aaron Smith, he got his quota on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
But so I think before he throws that touchdown pass, he was 4 for 12 for 58 yards or 52 yards. After that completion, he was 21 for 28 for 295.
Sure.
I mean, you start thinking about that throw and what he does at the rest of the game. I think that could have been the play where, like, okay, we can go, we can score. This is our third possession. We know how they're lining up against us. Bobo makes an adjustment. Beck makes some great throws. The O-line probably at that point, goes, okay, we're good here. Monroe Freeland's making his first start. A lot of nerves. National TV audience. They settle in and get a big drive. You get back into the game, and next thing you know, you got a game, because it wasn't very, they didn't have a ton of momentum until that drive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To be frank with you, Georgia hadn't had a lot of momentum in a game in a long time. I mean, Jake said it on the board yesterday, and it really caught my eye, because I thought I had the same exact thought. He said, it feels like a long time. I think it was around one of those Arian drops. And he said, it feels like it's been a long time since something good happened to this team. And he and I were discussing this earlier. And what stands out to me about this game is that some of those bad things that have happened to you still happen. You still had the drops. You had that OPI call. It wasn't necessarily perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but suddenly some things went right for you too. And you were able to, instead of kind of get the yips based off of those bad things, continue building off of those good things and take it the complete opposite direction. I did the snap count today, Rusty. I believe this is the first time all season that there have been only 5 offensive linemen used.
100%.
I mean, it's Monroe Freeling, a revelation to some degree in his, in that role. You lose Dylan Bell. I mean, again, another ding, right? And a big one, a guy with such versatility, such ability, changes your offense and can be so dynamic for you. You lose him, and hey, look, we get 8 snaps out of Nitro Tuggle, and people are absolutely just ripping the chain off the door to get this kid in the game more, man.
Yeah. They went to 13 personnel. They went to 3 tight ends, and Jurasic made some plays, and Delp made obviously some touchdowns, and Lawson Lucky was blocking, made a couple catches, I think. So I try to take the bigger picture. Maybe I'm taking the Kirby Smart side of this thing. The schedule's been brutal. I mean, it's been absolutely brutal. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Jake. I don't know how many teams would be sitting here. What are they, 8-2?
Yep.
I don't know how many teams would be sitting here at 8-2 with their schedule. I really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the losses in the SEC on the road. Alabama went to Vanderbilt and lost. Tennessee went to Arkansas and lost. LSU went to Florida and lost.
Ole Miss dropped it to Kentucky.
Ole Miss dropped. Well, that was actually at home, but
yeah, right. I mean, you
didn't have to go on the road. So I mean, where Georgia's sitting is such a different day. It's such a different day and age, and people are just programmed the old way. Like, we're done. We lost 2 games. We're going to the damn Outback Bowl, and you know how that goes. I mean, and now it's not the case. You win a big game last night at home, and everything's still in front of you. And it's really been it's been a grind, man. And we're going to dig into injuries this week. Not tonight. We're not going to dig into injuries tonight. We're going to dig into that this week for sure. There's a lot going on, and already made some calls on Trevor Etienne, trying to figure out exactly what's going on there. I've got some, made a couple of board posts about Dylan Bell, what we kind of think early on him, and time frame when we'll find out something more in detail. But Georgia had this capability the entire time. That was the head scratcher, Jake. The head scratcher was, can this team even play a complete game? Can they put together a clean game? They put together a really good football game last night that gives you that, like, oh boy, this team, that's what scares you. That if you're thinking about Georgia, and everybody, I don't care if you're a Georgia fan or not, if your team's like, oh God, we're going to get Georgia in the playoffs, that's what worries you. The Texas game now, and now you have this Tennessee game, and you're like, man, those guys can absolutely beat anybody in America. So, for Georgia fans, are like, damn, we want that every week. Where's this been? So we will see this week. This is a game that you are a lot better than you're a lot better than the other team. You get some reps, get this thing out, clean half, and get these other young kids in.
Absolutely. And Jake, again, I reference the things he says because he's a lot smarter than I am, and I bring the looks, he brings the brains, and but he said it, he said what people need to stop and realize is that environment that Georgia set last night is the environment that Georgia's been on the road playing in all season. That's what Alabama was. That's what Texas was. That Ole Miss was up for that 3:30 kickoff, man. I mean, they have had everybody's best shot. And so people said, oh, the crowd really got into it, really affected this game. Hey, look, that's been happening the other way too.
Yeah, I mean, for lack of a better description, they're like the Lakers. You're going to get everybody's best shot every night right now for Georgia because what they've done the last 3 years. And, now they've won 29 games, or it's hard to believe they have not lost a game at home since 2019. So they got two more to go. They come into that game with a 28-game winning streak, now 29, and get a chance to finish off. If they can finish this, who knows? They might have 3 more home games, which is crazy. Sure. Yeah, which is crazy. So
yeah, absolutely. I don't know, Rusty. I like I said, it looked so different, and it looked so. I'm curious, and I've asked people this all day. Are you a believer? Are you a believer in the idea? Is this you got to take this game to game, or can we build some momentum off of this? Like, that's got to be where this team's moving from, is saying, hey, wait a second. All of a sudden, we're back to who we thought we were.
There comes a point, and I go back to 2007 when they got absolutely destroyed in Knoxville. And I think at that point they were 4-2, and they got destroyed in Knoxville. They got beat 35-14 by Tennessee. They got ran at Matthew Stafford. Oh, they got ran out of the building. Well, they rip off 9 in a row, I believe, after that, and probably was the best team in America. Nobody wanted to play Georgia. Had we had playoffs, if we even had a Final Four, they're in there, and Georgia would have won the national championship. They were the best team in the country, in my opinion. Got kind of screwed at the end, but that's a different day and age. But they got so much better. Now, can this Georgia team go on that type of run to where can they go 6 games? Can they do 6? Can they do 6 more? Can they go 6-0 and peak? You know what I mean? That's great.
How are we sitting here talking about 6 more games, man? I mean, that is insane to think about.
They really, truthfully, if they were to somehow get into the SEC championship, they would have 7.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, but they right now on paper, if Georgia goes 6-0, they're national champs, which is, or 5-0, whatever it is. It's just crazy how much more they've got left, potentially there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I don't know where they can go from here, but you do hope that carryover comes. And
you're going to find out. You're going to find out because we're not going to get into it tonight. But I'm telling you right now, don't start beating your chest because
no question, absolutely,
they're going to have an all-out World War III.
Georgia Tech is coming into Athens with the look. They got the juice. All right,
Yes.
the juice is not fake. They got the juice. Haynes King will go down swinging. I promise you. We'll talk about that when it comes up. But this week we got another game for the Bulldogs, and that is going to be against UMass, who they played just a couple years ago. Andy Isabella on that team. You imagine what Andy Isabella would make in the portal? My God, he would. That guy would have been everywhere.
Lord.
But if you're trying to go to the game this weekend, look, this is a great chance to do it because you get to go in. You're going to be able to go to Sanford, enjoy the game, have yourself a nice time. It should be a nice winnable game. You might get to see some young guys play. Hopefully, that's what you're in for. But use our friends at Game Time, man. Game Time is our official ticket partner over here at Dawgs HQ and On3. Really, really a fine service and just one of the most intuitive and easy to use apps that you're ever going to find. You can go on, you can see the view from the seat that you're looking at. And that's what's so cool to me is like, hey, if you're sitting behind a pole, they're going to tell you that. But you can also see, hey, I got this great vantage point of it. This week, some really, really nice, some nice ones out there for you. You can get down here. Look at that. 100 level, 101, row 49. That's a great seat right there. $86 a piece, man. Those are going to transfer over. Those are going to transfer over to you super quick. They're going to be in your hands before you know it. Game Time is making it so that you got the all-in pricing. You can see what you're paying up front. And like I said, a great, great view from that seat. You're going to get in there. You're going to have yourself a great time. And you're going to be happier that you did it with gametime.co. Now, if you want to, you can use our code ON3. That's ON3. I'll take $20 off of your first purchase. Terms and conditions do apply, so make sure you check that out at checkout. But go over, use code ON3. That's ON3 at gametime.co and get your tickets for this weekend, man. You
need to link that on the board because we already have people asking about tickets this week for sale.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be one that, if you don't mind.
This is these games are really fun to go through, especially if you're somebody who's never been to a Georgia game. You've always wanted to go, man. A lot of kids have been this one.
Yeah,
you're not going to if you got one of them Rusty Mansell size families, you gotta go to the UMass game. That's how it rolls, brother.
I think we went to 83 or 84. I went to see maybe Western Carolina. You go to Bonanza, get that buffet up in Commerce back in the day. Get you some Bonanza and roll out, man.
Absolutely. So go use gametime.co, code ON3, and get your tickets this week. What time is it? It's game time, guys. Get in and go see it. Rusty, this one, it's been used before. I'm not the first person to come up with this one, but Carson Beck. Look, that was a guy who was playing with a little bit different energy yesterday. And he had he talked a little shit after the game. I mean, I loved when he said, I was a dual threat in high school. I just want to remind people of that. And I was like, okay, all right. He played different. He played with a level of confidence, man.
As the game went on, he definitely got more comfortable, stood in the pocket. And he has the tools. I said it last week, and somebody absolutely just tore me a new one, But the NFL is going to like Carson Beck, and this is what they're going to like about Carson Beck because he's tall. He's got a freaking rifle for an arm. He is off the chart smart. He has not done well this year, and he's had a lot of interceptions, a lot of turnovers. But they're also going to turn on that 2023 tape, and when he was absolutely just torching folks. And the NFL is one of those leagues where they go, I don't care who it is, we can fix it. There's such a shortage of quarterbacks in the offense you play in at Georgia when you're under center and it's a pro style. That's going to be very attractive. So I'm not trying to predict where he's going to get, but don't let the last couple of weeks tell you this kid's going to be a fifth rounder because it's not. You know what I mean? And last night's another thing. I saw Todd McShay today go, I think Todd McShay said today, this is really going to make NFL guys go, damn, he's back. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to, you know what I mean? Like, here we go again. We got to eval this guy. So he's got some games left. And, it's kind of eerily similar, Jake, because you covered him as well. If you remember his junior year in high school, he was Mr. Football in Florida.
Yeah.
Mandarin High School, they won the state championship. They unbelievable team. Well, everybody left. And Carson was there by himself, and they didn't have a good year at all. And people were killing him over his ranking and that type of thing. I think they were like 6-4, didn't have a lot around him, didn't have a great year. So, it's kind of weird how his 2023 season had a lot of pieces around him, was really, really good. He hadn't had the best. He's had drops. It ain't all been on him now. Let's get that straight. But hey, Kirby Smart said in a press conference, they asked him if you ever thought about changing. He goes, not a second. What do you say? Not a second or whatever. Not once.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's been behind this guy the whole time. And that's what I say, you see it in practice and you finally see some bits and pieces. And that's going to be the key for Georgia. Can they string this together? Is he going to take this game? Is the offense going to take this game and put it together and move forward and do what they do? Because last night, man, that was one of the best defenses they're going to play all year, period. And nobody, Alabama, nobody had done that to them. And Georgia goes for like 450 and 31 points.
Yeah, Carson was like 357 or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like suddenly everybody was working in sync. And what a difference it makes when you are when you got solid pass protection, or when you got Nate Frazier busting off a couple runs, or when guys catch it, when you put it in their hands, and maybe sometimes they even make a tough grab. And now they missed a couple tough ones too. I mean, I'm not saying it was, like I said, this was not a perfect day for Georgia, but to me, Carson is the guy who stands to benefit the most from what happened yesterday, because
no doubt,
because of the confidence that this can reinstill in him, in my opinion. I mean,
and everybody around him too.
Yeah, yeah. But it was like it was really like watching a guy who had, who was hitting 197 at the plate come up and have a 3-for-3 day with, 2 doubles and a home run. I mean, it was like, you were like, oh, okay. All right. Suddenly maybe things are working again. He was making smart decisions with the ball. Like you said, you made reference to that idea of him, that the linebacker layering on that, on the delt throw. How many times has he been a victim of the layering this year? I mean, that's what's gotten him. One of the things that really caught my eye, Rusty, and what they did for Carson, was there were 2 throws on that first drive that were shots, and those were longer than any single ball that was thrown the entire game last week in Oxford. I mean, and so they kind of just said, hey, look, it felt like they were saying, look, let's turn this thing loose a little bit, man. Like, let's get out here.
Or they felt like they could protect him.
Yeah, right. Sure. Sure.
Listen, playing at home, man, it helps. It helps.
James Pierce was one of those dudes that you had circled. Like, as soon as that schedule dropped, you said, oh, you got to watch out for Pierce on this one, man. And he continued to go and go and go throughout the season. I mean, the guy's going to be, I think they had the stat up yesterday. It was like, Kuiper's got him as like the 16th pick or something like that. I mean, the guy is an absolute stud. He's a freak. Kirby Smart and company know him extremely well.
Dan Lanning went after him hard.
Yes.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Dan Lanning, he missed on Will Anderson. All right. And he'll one of these days he'll admit he missed on Will Anderson. Okay. Yeah. And that's just, it happens. All right. That was a big one. But he wasn't gonna miss on James Pierce eval wise. They didn't get him, but he was right from the start on James Pierce. That was a dude that they went after him immediately. Didn't get him, but there was no delay, kind of like with Will Anderson deal, and that is what it is. But they went after James Pierce, and he's been hell to deal with.
Oh, absolutely, But yeah, all those pieces working together, and then suddenly, like I said, Carson starts hitting his spots. Look, if he plays like that. No, regardless, when he was throwing 3 picks, you could still win a game, a big game in Texas, right? You still won big. You start now. Let's imagine. Let's imagine, because we still haven't seen it. Let's imagine all the pieces falling together. Everything just starts to come into focus. That's to me where it is that Georgia is so dangerous. Nobody wanted to draw Georgia, even with a flailing Carson Beck. With Carson Beck suddenly hitting his spots, that's now people are saying, oh boy, here we go again. And now, the other guy I wanted to mention, not Carson Beck, but another guy that I think was very crucial to this game, and the snap count proved it out. Daniel Harris. A really big performance for him, man.
I think he took the starting job last night, because when 12 got the PI, and it was a bad PI, just not making a play on the ball, just when he did that, I don't know if I saw 12 again. And I told y'all on the group text, I don't know that what was going on in the timeout. Maybe like 3 series later, I see Ellis Robinson put his helmet on.
Right.
And I see them talking to Ellis Robinson. And I'm not talking about how's your day going. They're doing this. So I think, now I'm guessing here, but had they saw a certain personnel set, a personnel formation right there coming out of that timeout, I think they were about to put him in. Maybe if they go 4 wides here, you're in. So they have him like this. They're talking to him and they're looking. And when they do it, you kind of get the brush back like they're not in that personnel. So that tells you maybe he's close, because you don't normally talk to freshmen. DB coaches aren't talking to freshmen and watching what's coming in from the other side. So that's something to tuck away. That's something to tuck away there. A lot, the Georgia fans that want that guy to play, and maybe he's really, really close to get on field. Especially now, if they go Harris full time, do they take this week to try to get him ready in UMass and have him against Georgia Tech?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because they always play 3 corners.
And I mean, I wrote this today, man. Who had Daniel Harris usurping a starting cornerback ahead of that after that Kentucky week? When the reckless hit. I mean, I thought that week, I was like, it's over, man. This guy was already struggling. He was fighting for his spot. Humphrey, had taken pretty much all the reps to that point in the season, and then he screws up. You don't see him at all, and I said, man, this thing's over. Here, Daniel Harris, not to be written off, and like that was not because he was not a talented player. The guy is a phenomenal athlete. I mean, big athlete. coming out of high school, man, they chased that dude with a passion. Because of his length, because of his ability. He played great competition in high school. I mean, he's one of those Tampa kids, played down there at Gulliver, I believe it was. So just a really, really just a hell of an athlete. It's not shocking to me that he's emerged, but given where he had to come from to do it, is pretty amazing.
Yep. Yeah, he's a big athlete, man, in person. Like that dude, you see him, you're like, oh my God, that guy's a corner. I mean, big dude. Right. Big dude.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to get into some more of these recruits here in just a second. But first, we got to shout out our friends over at myperfectfranchise.net.
Andy.
Are you a displaced corporate executive or wanting to put your career in your own hands? Or are you an experienced entrepreneur who wants to diversify? Well, Andy Ludicky and myperfectfranchise.net can help. Andy is a huge college sports fan and a franchise veteran who's owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using his expertise, he helps others find their American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. Call Andy, put your life and career in your own hands. Best of all, his services 100% free to you. So what do you got to lose? Find your perfect franchise today at myperfectfranchise.net. That's myperfectfranchise.net. Rusty, a lot to be made of this game, and rightfully so. But one thing we absolutely want to touch on, because it's something you and I talk about a lot, and it's why a lot of people come and read Dawgs HQ. And we sure had a lot of it to talk about today, and we got a ton of articles up on the board if you want to come over and check all that out. We've also got a little flash sale going on today.
It's about 4 hours left.
Look, we're recording this on Sunday night. You got to get it by 11:59 Sunday night. All right.
Yeah.
So get on over to the board. 50% off your first year. $1 for the first 7 days as well. Come check us out. Just go click on the front page today. Go look at the message board today. I don't think there's a thread older than about 3 p.m. right now. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's been
a lot different mood than last week.
People were not feeling so well. But I want to talk about Georgia recruiting this weekend because you really couldn't have had it at a better time, man. I don't think that you could have come out there and delivered a better performance, a better atmosphere. Georgia fans, pat yourself on the back if you were at that game because you helped impress these kids. Probably the number one response that I heard from recruits. We did the Recruits React piece. Every single one of them said, great environment, excellent atmosphere. What a just blown away by the whole kit and caboodle of the thing, man. I'm curious, Rusty, your thoughts being there, being a part of that, and put on your glasses, take yourself back to Pepperell, and imagine Rusty Mansell gets to come watch that game.
I trust me, I wouldn't watch none of those games. That was a who's who list. You know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of Rusty Mansells there on the visit list last night. I can assure you of that. And that was a lot of. That was a lot for the support staff. I talked to one of those guys before the game, and I said, man, how are y'all handling today? He goes, man, we have been going since 11 a.m., and we will be going until tonight till the game's over. I think Kirby had 10 recruits at his house this morning, I think, 10 at 8:30 a.m. So
the famous breakfast.
Some of the breakfast stuff, some of the guys, the officials, and then some of the guys unofficial that were in town, or I don't know how that works, or he had meetings maybe he had them at the Buttsmere with the guys that spent the night. It's a lot on those support staffs. But one thing I've asked people, and I've asked every year, I ask players' parents, how organized is Georgia on these visits? And that's one thing under Kirby Smart. Man, they've got that thing down. And now that they have that new locker room that Kirby had built very quickly, it's much more, the logistics are just easy. You go in the stadium, they have their own recruiting lounge. They don't have to go to the other end of the stadium. They don't have to walk through the stands to get a Coke, which is
God. Take them to that beautiful locker room they had before.
Man, it's crazy. I mean, it's hard to believe that Georgia was in that, but Kirby had 1 year of that and said, no, we're not doing that anymore. So those things. I think thank you, Jerry McIntosh. He said thanks for Game Time. Just followed him. So
I love to see it.
For the Carrollton, John talking about Chaz Chambliss. Yeah, dude. Trust me.
Team leader in sacks, Chaz Chambliss, by the way.
Listen, Chaz Chambliss. I just don't around me, man. Don't. I know this kid. I know everything he's been through. Lost his father in high school. It's a tough deal this kid went through. And I covered this kid in high school. He didn't mess around. He didn't talk. He's just a great kid. He's a hell of a football player.
I remember speaking to somebody on the staff over there, and they said this is gonna sound like a cliche, like it's gonna sound like I'm talking about. They said the kid literally shows up with a metal lunchbox and a thermos full of coffee in the mornings. And he like a coal miner. I mean, they said, this dude is like old school as it gets, man. No nonsense.
Yeah,
it's always been that way, man. And that kid has, for whatever you want to, there's some really, really good players at Chaz Chambliss' position. Chaz Chambliss has continued to beat him out, and he's continued to stay there.
If we literally could get Kirby on here and just say we had 5 minutes, I would ask Kirby Smart to give me the no BS on Chaz Chambliss. Like, just tell me what he does in practice, what he does off the field.
John says, dude had to be locked out of the weight room at Carrollton. True story.
I believe it, man. I'll tell you this too, man. I tell you this 100%, 1,000%. There were some people on that staff at that time that probably didn't want to take him. And Dan Lanning stood on the table in a meeting and said, we're taking Chaz Chambliss. And I'm telling you, think about that. That was, that's one of the last kind of big meetings that Dan Lanning was probably involved in that class. And they took him. And I remember I remember a team, and I would never do this, but I remember a team calling me after they played Carrollton that year. They're like, dude, that guy will never play at Georgia. He's so stiff, like he's so short.
Yep.
But you're talking about maximum effort, and he does the dirty work for everybody in behind it. You talking about tear a pulling guard's head off?
Oh, yeah.
Watch what he does against the counter. And then last night he's getting pressure. So, yeah, man, I could do a whole damn show on Chaz Chambliss. That dude, man, you don't mess around with Chaz Chambliss and me. That guy, he's been there and done. I know a lot about him, know who he is, and he is, he's one of those guys that one day you think that wouldn't be a bad deal to have a son-in-law to come around the house, somebody like that. But I'll be at Carrollton this week, John. Big game. We got Carrollton. We got Valdosta. Todd Robinson comes to town. So I got Juju Lewis, and those guys will be playing.
Recent decommit, Juju Lewis, like fresh off of his Georgia visit, decommit Juju Lewis.
So get a chance to watch that game Friday night. I'm excited about doing that one, and we'll have a lot of coverage on that as it go. But everybody in the country will get a chance to watch that game.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me answer that. Let me answer that too. Howard Eubanks.
Yes.
Was Bear Alexander there? Bear Alexander is not in the portal. Georgia cannot talk to him. Bear Alexander is not in the portal. He cannot be anywhere near the locker room. Bear Alexander cannot meet with Georgia's staff. Bear Alexander is basically the old COVID recruiting. Remember, they could just walk around campus and look at stuff. That's kind of where he is. So obviously he's in town. He took a picture, but don't jump to conclusions on that one. There's a lot going on there. And it's funny. I don't know. I don't have his DM. A guy on Twitter took a picture of Bear maybe in about June or July in the summer, I think. And he sent it to me, and he was in Athens at like Canes. And he goes, "Is this Bear?" And I'm like, "Damn, I think that is Bear."
Yeah.
Summertime, he's still got a couple of friends on the team. You never know what, he comes and hangs out. I saw Chad Lindbergh, who plays for Rice. He was in the bleachers last night.
Was he really?
Oh yeah, is there? I guess they're off week. They're off week, I guess, and he still has a lot of friends on the team. He's in town. Yeah. I think he's graduated from Georgia. He's starting for Rice, and he was in the student section last. I was like, "Is that Chad Lindbergh?" Yeah, that is Chad. He's got a lot of good friends, a lot of close friends still playing at Georgia. So, could Bear Alexander come back and hang out with his friends? He absolutely can, but he cannot step foot in that football office. He cannot step foot in that building, and he cannot have any conversation with Georgia until he goes into that portal. Whenever he officially enters that deal, then it will be. I think they can. I think it can go in December the 6th, I believe.
Okay.
Officially, something like that. It opens up. So if there's an opportunity, there's a long discussion there. He's a very talented football player. There would have to be some long conversations before that young man got back on that team. And listen to me now. I mean, he's been through a lot too. Now he's had a different life,
Absolutely.
That's been well documented. His home life and some, not having a dad around, those types of things. He's went through a lot. Doesn't say this kid can't mature, and he's been through a lot. Now he's like, you know what? That was the best place for me. That's where I need to be. So I don't want people to write him off, but I can tell you this: there will be a lot of discussions on how he exited Georgia, how he acted those last 3 months, and he would have to look some football players in the eye and say, "I'm a different person" to come back in that locker room. But he is a damn talented football player.
Yeah, there's no question about it, man. And I mean, why? Why wouldn't we be talking about Bear Alexander?
I mean, I sent y'all that picture on that group shot. I was like, "Hey, boys, y'all want a picture of Bear?" I was then I had to find out. Then I had to find out. Like, wait a minute, is he in the portal? Am I going to have to find out what's going on with Bear Alexander tomorrow? So. Right now, no,
that was a shocker for sure. Jared Curtis made it to town. That's a huge visit for Georgia. Dogs get him back on. DJ Pickett, the 5-star plus cornerback, LSU commit, comes into town as well. I mean, it was a who's who. Now there were two really interesting ones to me, and that was Christian Gass and Travis Smith, who were supposed to be there, and then ended up maybe there, but like maybe as like guests of Tennessee or Tennessee fans took them in as their own.
I believe I know Travis Smith was there.
Travis Smith was there. I talked to him.
Travis Smith saw the video, 100%. He was there, and but he was sitting in the Tennessee section. So It's shocking. He found tickets in the Tennessee section.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure.
But, kudos to
he
them.
had to make a lot of calls to get that to happen.
Kudos to Tennessee for saying, y'all not going to that recruiting section at Georgia. I can get you in that stadium, or somebody did. So that's a story for another day. That's a story for another day. I'll say this: the getting back to Jared Curtis.
Yeah.
When Kirby Smart walks into the stadium, when you see the dog walk, and they usually have about 45 minutes to an hour as soon as they get in that locker room, the specialists come out, the kickers and long snappers, those guys, they come out. The majority of the team, it takes them about 45 minutes to an hour before they come out on the field. So you figure that Kirby Smart has his own office downstairs in that locker room. He has his own office. My experience, and I'm just saying from my experience, when you can find out who he meets with, because he only has a certain amount of time in that stadium because he goes to the game. As soon as the game's over, he goes back to the football offices and they start meeting with players over there. But 100%, we did confirm, and I did confirm that Kirby Smart sat down one-on-one with his family, Jared Curtis, in that locker room before that game. And that tells you exactly where it is with that quarterback. Because as far as I know, that's the only quarterback he got in one-on-one yesterday in that office right before that game. They are all in on Jared Curtis. They have been all in on Jared Curtis. And they're going to swing on him until the very end. Either they're going to get him or they're not. But that is a very, very talented football player. And that's a guy they want. He is a massive, massive target for Georgia.
Yeah, and God, we haven't even talked about the fact that they landed a commit today. Lincoln Kias, three-star tight end out of Michigan, commits to the Dogs fresh out this morning. I talked to him this summer, had a chance to talk to him after he picked up his offer from Georgia. And, man, he had some really glowing things to say, like kind of went above and beyond, just a guy like, hey, it was a cool offer, whatever. He said, look, he knows about the tight end legacy at Georgia. He says, I know what these guys are doing. I know how Todd Hartley runs it. He said, these guys are about hard work. That's what I'm about too. They think I'm a great fit for that reason. Second time seeing Georgia this year. Had a chance to come to that Clemson game as well, I believe, early on in the season. 6'6", like what is he? 210, 220, I think 220. I mean, he's a little bit lanky right now, but man, he's long. Go turn the tape on, man. I'm telling you right now, guy's a 3-star. I don't think that'll be the case very much longer, man. Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, everybody was in on this guy. I mean, for God's sakes, he went to Saline, which is, I believe somebody on our board said that was where Lloyd Carr's kids went to high school. And he said, these are excellent. This guy was, he said, maybe the best football player that's come through that high school. So this was a guy that it felt like, Rusty, they were really, really hard after for a long, long time. And I know it's early and you're going to have to fight off those Big Ten schools for him at the end, I'm sure. But this is a guy that Todd Hartley kind of zeroed in on in a big way.
Yeah, after he worked out at Georgia this summer, I posted on Dawgs HQ. Don't worry about his ranking. Like that guy moved up the board really quickly. Let me ask one more question for John. No meeting with Juju. Yeah, Kirby Smart met with Juju and his people at some point yesterday. Not sure when. Maybe before they went over to the office and those type things. And that wasn't really a shot at Juju. I'm just saying, like, when you have crunch minutes, and Matt Godwin will tell you, our friend Matt Godwin, you have to have a meeting to prioritize who's going to sit in Kirby's office during that time. And every staff guy's fighting, like, Kirby needs to meet with my guy. Well, Matt Godwin, who's sat in that room for 3 years, would have to tell some guy, coaches, we're not doing it. We're not doing this. You know what I mean? Like, this is who he's going to sit down with Jalen Walker. You know what I mean? Jalen Walker's a junior or whatever. Right. And some of those things. So, everybody's fighting for their guys, but he did meet with Juju at some point. At some point. But I don't see Juju at Georgia. Not right now. I don't.
I bet I bet there wasn't a lot of argument about the Jared Curtis sit down.
DJ Pickett was in that chair too.
Yeah, I bet he was.
I'll give you those two. DJ Pickett and Jared Curtis sit in that office in Sanford Stadium. I can assure you of that.
And I just want to bring this one up real quick. Howard Eubanks says, is our punter another linebacker? What an absolute form tackle by Brett Thorson. You want to talk about, look, the man he is not one of these frail just standing on the sidelines kicking. This guy can play some football, man.
He does that podcast with Tate Ratledge. I can't wait for it to come out. Because I'm telling you, dude, I mean, they might as well just have Ric Flair smoke him. When he comes out, he might have one of those purple robes on. Because I'm telling you, it was a shock that anybody even returned a punt again. Nobody's returned a punt in like 3 years on this guy.
Right.
And then they bust one, and he comes. You talking about getting stung in film when those guys, Tennessee guys, go, dude, that Australian dude just absolutely mauled you right there. But hell of a tackle. Hell of a tackle.
Yeah, that one probably saved the touchdown, right? I mean, it was like
no question it saved the touchdown.
He was like, got on him and just straight down. I was like, God dang,
I'm telling you, listen, that guy he's going to get his money's worth out of that tackle. It's going to be good. It's great.
I haven't seen anything on Twitter yet about it, and I'm surprised he hasn't put out a clip.
They do TikTok. They're on a new forum. I got you. They're on a new podcast, Minutes with Mullets or something. I'll have to ask Tate what they are, but I've seen some bits and pieces of it, and they do a great job. I'm telling you, he's gonna pull Rusty Mansell, get his money's worth. But his 15 minutes, he's gonna milk it. I can assure you, and he should, man. He did a great job.
Absolutely. Look, then the future is so bright for Brett Thorson. Even whatever, football or not, man, that guy.
Man, I hope he goes to like the Vegas or like the New Orleans. He needs a city that they could turn that man loose. You know what I mean?
McAfee. He's got McAfee in
McAfee, yeah, he does.
As a punter, he's got. You don't see that a lot, man. He's got that juice. I know you love a specialist, so.
No, dude. Could you imagine if Kirby, if they got up, 48-7 or something, and they let my man run a 2-point play, and dude. I mean, remember how Miami in the '80s they got all those sportsmen throwing helmets off, dancing. I'm telling you, Thorson would get 15 and he would earn it, man. Mullets on the mic. Yeah, thanks, Howard. There, Howard Eubanks said it's a good little thing. And listen, I want to say one thing before we get off here. Tate Ratledge, big game for him. It's been well documented. His family, the Tennessee ties, big time Tennessee family. His sister goes to Tennessee right now. That was a big game for him, and that was a big series for him. For him to go out and never lost to that school, I know that meant a lot to him. And it was a big decision for him to go to Georgia, and I know he knows he made the right decision for him. But that's a big, big deal for Tate Ratledge to be able to come back and play, because I know. When he got hurt, I talked to some guys around him, some people that know him really well, and they were like, man, he's fighting his ass off to get back. He wants to play Tennessee in Sanford Stadium one more time, and kudos to him, man. He got back. In that Ole Miss game, he was so sick last week. I talked to one of his family members yesterday, somebody close to him. They're like, dude, he was 103 all day. Ole Miss, they're trying to IV him. They're trying to do everything. And Tate basically said, look, I'm playing. Well, after 2 series, he just couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. And but he was back. The ankle looked good. That's great news for Georgia moving forward and down the stretch.
Absolutely. Guys, we'll be back with you this week. Plenty more to talk about. Look, it's UMass week, but that don't mean we stop. I promise you that. We're like Georgia.
Wednesday, Bruce, there'll be 2 weeks of signing day.
That's right.
I mean, that's stupid, dude.
I can't really.
2 weeks to signing day.
Think about this. Georgia could potentially play 7 more games, and we're 2 weeks to signing day.
and oh, by the way, they'll have a month of portal.
Yeah, right. So we'll probably sleep at some point in 2025. I don't know when, guys, but we won't be sleeping this week. Get over to Dawgs HQ. Like I said, we got the flash sale going on up until midnight tonight, Sunday night. This is November 17th, Sunday night tonight. We got the flash sale coming, 50% off of a full year. Get all the behind-the-scenes stuff, man. You got questions over here in the comments, bring them over to the board, man. We'll talk about them over there. We'll get you addressed. We'll get you hanging out with us. We have a great time, man. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in this evening.
Thank you.
Another big one on the tracks for the Dogs this week. Chase Linton set to commit. Feel pretty good about that one. We'll see how it goes, though. Full coverage of that one at Dawgs HQ. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.